ladies and gentlemen, our next bout is a featherweight bout. This is a semi-professional bout consisting of 2 4-minute rounds. So please welcome your first fighter to the cage. He weighed in at 63.1 kilograms. He is making his semi-professional debut and representing TSG Fight School from Grays, Ryan Scott. Now let's welcome his opponent to the cage. He weighed in at 64.8 kilograms. Also making his debut and representing Team Elite from Rochford, Dan Whiston.
So next up we have semi-professional mixed martial arts over 2 4-minute rounds of action. Dan Winston from Team Elite in Rochford and Ryan Scott from TSG Grays, and both these young men will be making their debut tonight. And Pierre, UWC22, Rico Rodriguez topping the bill. Big event to be making your debut on.
Yeah, and you can look back that's definitely something very memorable, because, I mean, how much longer do you think Suave will be fighting? You know what I mean? He's a UFC legend. He's fought all over the world, and to be on the same card as him is a little bit special.
It's going to be great to say I was on that undercard. So 2 men with something to prove here now in semi-professional MMA. Ryan Scott in the all black shorts. Dan Whiston with the red trim.
Now both guys jockeying for position, kicking off the cage, trying to put the back onto the cage and possibly look for, now look at the pressure that Whiston is putting on to Ryan Scott. Looking possible, ooh, a knee there from Whiston, from Scott. Scott jumps guard, looking for a possible arm in guillotine.
And he could have it on tightly. Whiston holding on.
Now this is bad when you go down to the mat. He needs to, and he's doing the right thing. He's taking that left arm, trying to get some breathing space. But look at the head. The color of the head is red, so there's obviously a lot of pressure being put on by one Ryan Scott.
Now 2 things to mention here. In your debut, as we saw against the cage there with the interchange, the adrenaline's really flowing. It's a big show. You're in front of all these people, the adrenaline's flowing. And the other thing is, you are going to make mistakes. The things to learn from them, isn't it, Pierre?
Yes. Now, for Ryan Scott, we're going, and again, both guys really, really in there trying to, you know, show this crowd what they have. And again, like you said, yeah, it is pre-fight nerves down. He's holding on to the cage. That's not allowed here. Again, both guys fighting for position, but you have to be real careful that those semi-amateur moves don't get you sucking wind early in the first or in the beginning of the second round.
Well, Scott had that big opportunity, didn't he? Whiston was the man being aggressive, and suddenly he was in this guillotine. He's out of it again now, but big knees coming in from Scott.
But what you have to do is you can't chase a submission if it's not there, because as you know, ooh, big shots there, just missing by Dan Whiston. Another knee coming up through the pipe by Ryan Scott.
What do you think Whiston is after here? Because he's constantly trying to push his man to the cage here. He's been at it since this round has started.
I think he's looking for a takedown, but he wants to be in that top position. From that top position, he can work from side mount, full mount, or even in his opponent's half guard.
But he hasn't been successful at the moment. What he has done is eaten knees and almost been in the flying guillotine. Maybe a change of tactic. That's where this debut status, isn't it? That's where the learning curve is.
And that's the beautiful thing about being semi-pro, is that if you make mistakes, it's not your pro record.
Well, finally, you were right. He's got where he wanted to be. It's what he does with it now. You were spot on there, Pierre. Whiston got where he wanted to be, got to be on top, but Scott, very quick transition.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful reversal there by Ryan Scott, really pumping the hips up and putting Dan Whiston on his back. Now, Dan Whiston looks to have like a partial half guard. I think Ryan Scott is going to try to work out of that, possibly to full mount. The half guard opens. Scott throwing a small body shot.
And as we've said on numerous occasions before, when it's semi-professional like this and when you're on the ground, you've got to think and work in a different way. You can't just posture up for that ground and pound. You really have to start thinking about technique.
Yeah, you know, and I could see both guys showing shapes. They know what to do, but again, saying that, beautiful, beautiful taking to the back there by one Ryan Scott. Dan Whiston looking to be in a little bit of trouble. Ryan Scott looking for a possible rear naked choke here. He has to be careful, and he Supermans him out. Very good position there for Ryan Scott.
Now, dangerous times here for Dan Whiston. You can hear his corner calling to him, and he is saved literally by that buzzer. For me, Whiston tried a lot of things, but the eye catcher was Scott.
Yeah, and I think he wasted a lot of valuable energy with those failed takedowns from that stand-up position. What I would like to have seen is maybe Whiston changing his levels. Instead of trying to bully him down by double underhooks, switch down and possibly go for a single, double leg, try to play with that, try to play with his balance. However, he didn't do that, and we'll see if that plays into the second round.
So this second round will be the final round, 2 full-minute rounds. We had Whiston, as we said, expending a lot of energy, but possibly Scott taking the round, and this is all part of that learning curve we talked about. And again, Scott slipped under beautifully and went for his own takedown. Didn't quite get it.
Right, and again, when I was talking about that changing of levels, Whiston could take a page out of Ryan Scott's playbook, because he did that beautifully. He changed the levels. He went underneath the punches of Whiston to get this possible takedown attempt. Now, another cage grab by Dan Whiston. He's going to have to be careful because the referee could penalize him a point for that.
Yes, it's the third time the referee's noticed it. But again, it's that turnaround by Scott. Whiston knows where he wants to be. His opponent just won't let him.
Now, Ryan Scott tried for 2 failed elevator sweeps there. Whiston using the cage to push off, keep his balance, and he was rewarded. Big, deep shot there by Ryan Scott. However, Dan Whiston sprawls.
Yeah, he saw it coming, sprawled in time. Nice short left there from Scott. And we always say at this level, set up your takedown attempt. Get him thinking about something else.
Not only that, when you punch to the head, it causes your arms to raise up, clearing the way for you to change that, to change levels and go in for that shot.
In this second round, though, Dan Whiston learning from his opponent, getting the knees in wherever possible against the cage. Ryan Scott was very good at that in the first round, and Dan Whiston is learning from that in the second here.
Now Whiston with the takedown. Ooh, up kick just missing by Ryan Scott. Now Whiston has to be careful. He's put himself in some positions where Ryan Scott can loop the arm up and over, looking for that guillotine.
Well, the strange thing was for there, Whiston worked for that takedown, got it, and then stood up and told his man to stand back up again. As he's done here, it seems a definite change of tactic. He's called him up. Does he feel more confident upright now?
Well, I think he's just trying to score points in the judge's eyes. There's a takedown, no damage done to him. He stands back up and possibly look. Oh, another kick there by Ryan Scott, throwing both the left and right round kicks. So maybe Whiston is just trying to score points here in the second.
Yes, he's certainly working the knee more. Scott, impressive upright as well. It's going to be very difficult for the judges. And again, you feel there's maybe a bit of fatigue here from Dan Whiston. He's open-mouthed, and it is their debut, so you imagine that adrenaline dump has kicked in now. And you can see clearly with Whiston, he looks at his opponent and says sorry, but I think he is fatigued.
Sometimes it comes down to who wants it more.
2 big knees from Ryan Scott there.
And I believe you called it right on the button, Malcolm. Whiston is looking gassed here in the closing of the second round.
Well, he looked to his corner for inspiration there, and he's looking over to them again. It's been a hard debut for him.
And I tell you what's so hard is when you're so tired, you know what to do, but you're just not enough gas in the tank to do it.
By the same token, Scott hanging off that single leg, it will have taken out of him as well, because it is his debut too.
Well, both guys are game. Possible tie clinch by Whiston. Instead, he does a little bit of dirty boxing there on Ryan Scott.
And do you know what? There's nothing like your first real fight and how you feel afterwards to get you into the gym and working even harder. Suddenly you realize why you're doing it, and you go in with extra inspiration when you go back.
Well, I'll tell you what, for the fans at home, it really is, I'll tell you what, a sacrifice to get into the gym to make sure that you're fighting fit, fight ready. And both of these guys look to have done their homework. Nice takedown there by Dan Whiston, right at the bell.
Well, this is going to be a hard one for the judges. Let's see which way they're going to go. But it was a very entertaining debut from both men, and they will learn so much from this fight, Pierre.
I mean, both camps will take this fight back, look at the tape, and gauge where their fighters are and areas for improvement and what they did well.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've got to agree, 2 rounds of great action there. Big round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, after 2 rounds of action, we go to the judges' scorecard. And the winner, by unanimous decision, Ryan Scott! And a big hand to your runner-up, Dan Whiston. Ladies and gentlemen, our next bout is a light heavyweight semi-professional bout consisting of 2 4-minute rounds. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your first fighter. He weighed in at 92.8 kilograms. He has a record of 1 win and no losses. Representing Team Tsunami from Cambridgeshire, Lucas Kubiuski.
Podkurza z lustra, znów na pierwszy kłania się sąsiadom i stołuje jak ludzie, drugi ciśnie z typem w windzie. Biada fast food, pierwszy odkłada pieniądze i doświadcza przysługi, drugi dzwoni cały szelest. Popada w dół, pierwszy wieczorami z książką, pyta czy jesteś wolna, drugi chamski i wulgarny, znów odpala im wolna. Jest nas 2. Chyba wystarczy, pierwszy odnosi sukcesy, drugi wraca na tak, któryś budzi się na tacy, nerwowo pali ślubi, zdaje się, że potem pierwszy.
Ladies and gentlemen, now welcome his opponent to the cage. He weighed in at 92.9 kilograms. He has an unbeaten record of 3 wins and no losses. Representing TSG Fight School from Southend-on-Sea, Dan Piper!
Right, so semi-professional action over 2 4-minute rounds. Lucas Kupnevsky, Team Tsunami against Dan Piper from TSG Fight School, big local hero. And Team Tsunami you know very well indeed, obviously, Pierre.
Yeah, under the tutelage of Robbie Olivier, John Tommy McGuire. Big straight right cross catches Lucas on the button straight away. Dan Piper showing that he is the real deal here tonight.
Well, Pierre, both men threw Dan, but Dan landed cleanly. And it's got Lucas in all sorts of problems, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's climbing up for a triangle choke. Now, if he can get that leg right up underneath the kneecap, then he could possibly go ahead and wrap this fight up early here in the first.
Well, you can see the dismay on Lucas's face. It wasn't meant to go that way. Oh, he slipped free as well. Both men went for the shot. Piper landed it.
I tell you what, that was just a luck of the draw. Both guys pulling out early and bang. Dan Piper finding, you know.
It was gunfighters, wasn't it?
Oh, without a doubt. And he was quicker on the draw. Well, if Lucas wasn't awake, he is definitely awake now. But I tell you what, he did very well to get out of that triangle choke because it looked like it was coming on very, very quickly.
Yes, he had some sort of side control, but both men are now upright.
Now, Lucas looking for a possible anaconda choke, however. Now, did you see that? Dan Piper knows the rules, knowing that if there's 3 points touching the mat, he can't knee to the head. Very good cagecraft there by one Dan Piper.
Yes, and Lucas Kupnevsky, he looked to the referee as well. They both knew, and he had the knee poised. And as you said again, look at that from Dan Piper. Very clever tactics indeed.
Now he's climbing that arm. Lucas was trying to climb that arm up, looking to possibly sprawl and roll into a cement mixer into that anaconda choke.
Piper stalking his man this time. It's Lucas that lands first.
And both guys throwing a little bit wild. Lucas is going to have to keep those hands up if he doesn't want a replay of what happened initially here in the first. Right round there by Lucas. Double leg attempts. Muscles it down to the ground. Lucas in top position. However, he's in Dan Piper's guard.
Yes, both men, when they were upright, a bit ragged in those following exchanges, bit swinging.
Now you've got to ask yourself, how much energy has both men exerted here early in the first? Both guys really using a lot of muscle, working for the takedowns as well as that attempted triangle submission.
And these are not lighter guys either, Pierre. A lot of blood got to go around those muscles.
Now Lucas looking to step over to get into Dan Piper's half guard. Nice transition there by Lucas, switch hips. Now he finds himself in that side mount position. Dan Piper, the TSG fighter, with his back to the mat.
And we're looking at the moment here as well at an unbeaten fighter, 3-0, so he'll want to keep that streak going, but Lucas Kupnevsky has really tested him here in this first round.
Hip bump there by Dan Piper. Dan Piper going to his side. Now that's a very smart move by Dan Piper. Dan Piper knows he doesn't want to carry the foot. Oh, big step over into the mount there. Grapevine in the legs is one Lucas Kupnevsky.
But again, as I said, we've got Dan Piper, an unbeaten fighter. But if you look at Lucas, if you look at the potential partners for training and drills and sparring, it's incredible.
Yeah, both guys coming from solid camps. Dan Piper out of TSG with Daniel Brazota, black belt under Hoist Gracie. And then you have Tsunami with Robbie Olivier, John Tommy McGuire, UFC fighters, and possibly one UFC fighter in the making. Both guys will not have had lack of tutelage, that's for sure. Jab lands there, big right again by Dan Piper. Now that's one of Lucas's strengths. When he comes forward, he's like a freight train. It's very hard to stop that double or even that single leg takedown. But saying that, Dan Piper very slick on the ground, looking to put that foot into the hip. And how do you call that round here at the beginning of the first?
Well, when you look at the very beginning of the first, it's a straight right hand from Dan Piper. But I think as the round's gone on, Lucas has got back into it. You don't want to sit on the fence, but if you look at, it's a tale of two halves of this round.
Yeah. Now, one thing I'd like to point out is that Lucas does like to strike. However, he likes to do it on the ground in that top position. He's very good at utilizing his body weight, getting something for nothing, meaning that he wants his opponent to carry his weight throughout the round. He just grinds him down, and that sets up for those big, heavy shots. Now, Dan Piper, a success story for TSG. He came in at, believe it or not, 19.5 stone. since he's been training with TSG, he's lost 5 stone. They say he works harder than anyone else in the gym.
But if you look at the body language of both men here coming out into the second, Lucas was really taking deep, deep breaths for air. Where Dan looks still solid, and as you said, nobody works harder than him in the gym. This might pay off for him here in the second, Pierre.
Well, when I talked to Lucas earlier, he weighed in at 99 kg at the beginning of the week, and now he's down to 93. That takes a toll on the body, and we'll see if that plays out here in the second round. 1 over, 1 under. Lucas pressing with shots of his own. Left, right, left, right, left, right. He's got to be careful.
Now he looked for the takedown, but instantly Dan Piper was onto him. And these men are very evenly matched. I love this matchup, Pierre. When one tries something, the other's got the answer, and it makes for a very exciting upright and on the ground.
Well, Lucas came in, like you said, with that double leg. Immediately, Dan Piper looked for that guillotine. However, Lucas saw it, responded with hopping around that guard. And taking the back. Dan Piper very slick, up and out through the back door. Looking to go seatbelt here. Sets one hook in. And when it gets slick, sometimes you slide off. And I tell you what, that could have been very bad news for Lucas.
But again, for 2 men, 90K plus, the slickness and the speed of the transitions is superb.
Oh yeah, both of these guys are not what you would typically find in guys that weigh this, this much. Looking for a possible leg attempt or a sweep. There's Dan Piper. Lucas better get those hands up because Dan is back on the stalk. Double leg, sprawl there. However, look at the upper body strength of one Lucas Komniewski. And I'm telling you what, that was a deep sprawl there by Dan Piper.
Yes, Lucas, he looked as if he was just beginning to gasp, but again, fantastic transition. Little feint with the right hand, and then they're back to the ground.
Now head and arm choke set up there by Lucas Komniewski. Dan Piper, first time he's been in trouble with a submission. If Lucas can get his left leg out of the half guard, then he'll be able to sink his hips and walk it around and actually complete this head and arm choke.
Now, when we look at so many things being equal, you start to go down the criteria for the judges. You've got to start looking at aggression and cage control. Where would you go there with these 2 men, Pierre?
That's really hard. You always ask the hard questions, Malcolm, because I tell you what, every time that there's a question, the other person always has the answer. It's been very even in that way. You have the Tsunami fighter in that top full mount position with the TSG fighter on his back. Now, Dan Piper looking to push off the cage, possible reversal. And again, we talk about that slickness. You saw that it was slippery, and instead of getting that reversal, he just slid across the mat.
And Lucas looks to Lidowski in his corner for inspiration, and again takes a man down. And I'm just wondering if in the second round these takedown attempts that are successful by Lucas might just sway the judges with that aggression idea and the looking to be the man in ascendancy. It's only small things, but they will matter when a fight is this close.
Now look at Dan Piper trying to pull that leg in and through for a possible go-go plata. I'm on the edge of my seat here because, Malcolm, you're right. It could go either way for this fight.
Dan Piper trying to protect that unbeaten record, but he's been pushed all the way by Lucas Komniewski.
Dan looking for a Kimura or a possible Kimura reversal. Berzoda is pleading with this fighter to give it all he has all the way up until the bell because he knows exactly how close this bout is.
And it's about to end. Very, very tight indeed, Pierre. This is one for the judges to sort out. And there's lots of different criteria for them to look at. But as you said earlier, whenever you look, it's more like tennis than MMA. Back and forward, back and forward. I would not want to be a judge on this one.
And with that, there's nothing left to say, Malcolm. I think you've covered it all.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we go the distance. Big round of applause to both fighters, please. Ladies and gentlemen, after 2 rounds of action, the judges have made a majority decision in favor of your winner, Lucas Komniewski. And ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause to your runner-up, Dan Piper.